how did you finally arrive at, and this is the interesting part, right? How did you finally arrive at gaming tech
Yeah.
is what I want to be in?
Cool. Okay. So when I started to brainstorm on ideas, I started with the whole thing that I'm not going to do anything in consumer. At that point, I did
I remember you told me.
yeah, I have the Notion doc if you want to see it.
I have it.
I have shared it. Yeah, like
I have a Notion doc. Yeah,
I
yeah.
have a whole
Ideas
ideas that didn't
rejected.
work,
Yeah.
and I also have, and this at this point I had worked with for that 1 year, while working in a full time job. I worked with some 12 to 13 different co-founders across like multiple geographies.
What do you mean by worked with 12 to 13
So I
co-founders?
did like 5 or 6 active ideas, which
Right.
is like 2 months,
Right.
and that idea involved like a co-founder who I would meet through
Yeah.
friend circles,
Yeah.
and this would be also like a good friend. So at one point I wanted to solve for like ideation also. I started with the whole thing that consumer में कुछ भी नहीं करना. I don't want to do anything over here.
Right.
क्योंकि कैक्स आर हाई, ये सब
100%.
पढ़
Yeah.
लिया है, कर लिया है, चलो अब कुछ कूल करते हैं,
Right.
कुछ क्रिप्टो में करना है,
Correct.
कुछ टेक में करना है. So started this whole thing with want to do something cool,
Right.
something different, which is monumental. And the first thing, I think ideation is also of 3 or 4 kinds, which is first one would be you solve a problem, you have a problem to solve, and you look at that and then you go like, let me solve this.
Right.
This is something which bothers me. I'm going
Right.
to solve it. Second thing is you have an expertise in a particular field. You attack that because you know that I have this expertise. I can actually get into it and solve it. Third is like someone's already doing something, you do it better. I can give examples in
It's
each of
almost
these.
like a framework.
Yeah, this was a full-fledged framework.
Right.
And fourth one would be you have like a horizontal skill set, like say front-end dev, and within front-end dev, you pick up like 1 or 2 things and you would attack that. First one, like if I had to like recount each of these, first one was problem solving. So in my case, problem solving was I ran into paywalls whenever I was surfing the internet. Like people would send you links and then you'd run into a paywall.
Right.
So I was like, fuck it, I want to solve this. I can swear, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, this is too irritating.
Right.
I don't want to run into paywalls. I want to solve this.
Right.
And I started looking for solutions. I couldn't find any like viable solution. So I was like, let me build a like UPI type system which helps unlock all paywalls.
Yeah.
So I reached out to every single publisher. My friends got excited. We thought of the best problem, like one unlocking tool to unlock everything out there.
Right.
So this is a problem solving approach to fixing something. It didn't end up working out, but this was very close to like getting nicely funded.
Right.
Worked with a lot of different people on this idea, and like there were already like 25 startups that ended up doing it. So
Like, for example.
Blendle is one of them. Like then right now, Few Cents in Southeast Asia, Singapore, they're doing it. But the biggest thing that came out from this was large publishers would never agree because they like the subscription revenue upfront versus giving a person then an option to pay 20 rupees per article, 30 rupees per article. We were thinking of dynamic pricing per different publisher, per geography. So, and we went to the point we were like, listen, we'll redirect only one part of your traffic to give out this particular sign up page and let them
Let's
unlock.
A/B test it.
Let's A/B test. No one was okay with it. We don't even want to give them a taste of this. So the only people who were okay with it were people who were very small, like small publishers, and that didn't make sense. So this is more of like problem solving. Second would be like interest area. Like you have an interest area and you have expertise. Expertise chodo. You have like general experience there, and you want to get the user. In that department would be like fitness for me. Like I'm a huge fitness buff, so I ended up looking at a lot of like fitness related startups.
And I think that is the time when fitness was also coming up largely in India.
Yeah, lots. So I thought of like there's a startup called Future.co in the US, which does like high, very, very intense. I think they have like high grade individuals that end up giving out knowledge and supervising people, like a Healthify Me plus. So I thought of doing that. Didn't work out for various reasons. Yeah. Third one is, I mean, the biggest thing is
We're
like,
just looking at decision making.
yeah, expertise like on a particular thing. So after all of this, like for me was there was also like a few more interest areas which seem cool, like horizontal knowledge that you have. Like hiring is a problem. How do you solve it? So I went into that. Like let's solve for hiring, and came up with a cool idea as well, like a demo day for individuals, like versus doing. You have like these job events. puts them online. So you have like 30 companies, you have 30 uh, 30 people who are
Makes
really
it a
good,
lot more democratic.
and have them pitch
Very
one
interesting.
or the other, and
Yeah.
they can pick and choose. So a lot of people, VC showed interest. They're like, yeah, our portfolio would love to do this. Let's get this done. So by the way, while doing this, ended up working with a lot of different startup founders across the world. Now brings me to the last one, which is like having expertise in. So one main thing, common theme that happened during all of this was there was a lot of unknowns that I had through all of this, and it boiled down to like one or two things, like getting a tech co-founder or not having like hardcore expertise in something. Then I went like, you know what, let's dial it down. These 9 or 10 ideas haven't worked. I have expertise in the consumer space. I should do something there itself. I know I can hire the team. I know the people in marketplaces. I know how to look at data over here. Let me just solve for that. So the question at that time was that should I solve for building a brand or a marketplace or like some enablement tool? So enablement tool also came as an idea, but that also I quickly went like, you know what, I don't want to do this. It's not going to make sense for me to do it right now because again, it came down to finding a tech co-founder, and I am now as well, like super impatient that I need to get something out and I want to build something very quickly. That's when I just came back to let's build a brand, and that was the genesis of doing a consumer brand. I can tell you on how I thought of it, at least within why choosing gaming.
Gaming tech. Yeah. Now let's go to why do you arrive at gaming tech?
Yeah. So it was very clear as to if you're building a consumer brand, it had to make sense to sell online, which meant a lot of things had to make sense for selling online. First thing being that high AOV, had to have high AOV, low volumetric weight, so that when you're shipping it, it costs less and the price offsets it. So, I mean, a good product would be like a TWS earbuds, that is, go for 2,000 rupees and volumetrically charges like $40
Right.
to go. So the unit economics makes sense. That's something which you can deep dive in later as well.
Right.
So first thing was high AOV. Second, I mean, that's one of the things for selling online. Second was like super fast growth. So that was the interesting part where we just downloaded a lot of data, got a lot of data from marketplace teams, from Flipkart, from Amazon, from category leaders over there, and just looked at data week on week. So looked at a lot of data, and through this data, we end up seeing patterns for a lot of spaces which were growing much faster than the others. So, for instance, one interesting insight that came at that time was ring lights are being searched for more than rings for men, women, whatever. Like that blew my mind. Like, wow, there's so many people just searching for ring lights. And drones were searched way more than even like trimmers for men. So people wanted consumer drones. So in our heads, we were like, you know what? It makes sense to build a consumer drone company. Let's do it with that. And then started thinking back. I mean, this is one of the criteria: marketplace growth. Third was obviously market size. I mean, that
So
also.
sorry, you started with first is AOV,
High AOV.
low shipping cost.
Yeah, like low shipping cost.
Third,
marketplace growth.
Marketplace growth.
Fourth would be low CPC. What I mean by that is low cost per click. How do you assess low cost per click?
Competition.
Yeah, competition. Look at places where VCs have not funded too much. Beauty has a CPC of like 80 rupees, 85
Right.
rupees. I was looking at CPCs where it would be single digit to like low double digit. And there were very few areas that were solving. I mean, which actually tick.
Interesting.
Then there was share of voice for brands. Like if there was very fragmented, what do you call, number of brands in that space, and this was directly like looking at data such as share of voice on Amazon Brand Analytics, looking at, I mean, this was through various things, that looking at least in a particular space, there were either way too many players and all of them were like super fragmented. It would make sense to enter that because you could build a brand out there and you could take like a significant chunk. Or the second thing was we just saw like a monopoly over there, a huge like two
And
or
you
three.
also meant that there could be coexistence of players.
There could be coexistence. Now it had to make sense. Like an area like beauty or BPC, there's like 900 brands, 950.
Amazing.
Highly, it's very hard to stand out over there. Whereas if you look at like this space that we are in, or even like there are few spaces that came out, home furnishing,
Right.
this creator, gaming,
Right.
consumer electronics, premium consumer electronics, like what Dyson does. In that space, you saw like one player, two players, and then there were like cheap resellers only. So and making a brand in such a space is like much harder, but making a brand in a beauty space is much easier, like a brand, but standing out is just much harder. Getting distribution there.
I love this framework. Arriving at
Yeah.
some sort of thesis. I just want to understand, while you were doing this, and you would have had some level of weightage that you would have attached to each of those,
Yeah.
right? How do you then convince the VC that there is a TAM that exists for something that checks all the boxes but also hasn't been done yet?
Show them the data. And like before you even start off, you can show them the data, but you have to have a vision. If you don't have that vision on what you're going to go with or the strategy, then it doesn't make sense. The last thing for me was, I think the biggest area would be like interest. I mean, there are few spaces that came out, and I'm sure there's going to be some brands, big brands built there. Like home furnishings was one, kitchenware, like premium kitchenware was one, and premium electronics for home appliances was one. I don't want to do any of that, man. That's just boring. But gaming was one space where it made sense to me. And I remembered all the stuff I've done as a child. I assembled my own cabinet. I assembled my own PC. I used to play Assassin's Creed all the time. Crisis was like on my radar. I started playing PS before people did. I finished God of War, etc. before anyone did. But the one thing that I remember when I looked at this data was just this, that, you know what? I can only think of two brands, Razer and Logitech. Nothing else has existed.
Right.
That's when it just clicked to me that this makes sense. Like this makes full sense. And I'll get to like, because earlier on we were very greedy. We're like, oh, there's creator tech, there's gaming tech. They both go hand in hand.
Right.
Let's build for both.
I know, yeah.
Let's build for both. Let's start doing this. And both of them made sense at that point because it was very data led and not strategy led. That's where at least like you ask the question as to what would convince them. Show them the data. Show that I think the biggest thing that VCs, they're banking on is the individuals. So the individuals being the team, and they bank on that a lot. If you go in with a lot of confidence, showing all the homework that you've done, and this is going to make sense. There is something to be built here. And we're going to do it in XYZ way. And I can get into the ways also.
Yeah.
But that's what at least convinces them early on. That is if you need external capital.